Hey everybody, it's your boy, and today is the second part of my, I guess you can call, series on Chris Chan, and this will be the spicy one about misgendering him. Now after this, unless something really crazy happens, I won't be making any further content on Chris Chan, because if you can even use this word, there are far more people more qualified than I am to make videos on him, because they just have more knowledge and understand him better than I do, even though I've been doing a lot of research on him. Not just for this video, but just in general because of the drama that's happened. It's been really fascinating. It's a great deep dive if you're bored. So I would advise looking at some of the main Christorians like Gino Samuel or Dillin Thomas, I think his name is. They are the ones who make really good content on Chris Chan. And there's another guy called, I think it's Sallow Grave, I think his name is. He's not really a YouTuber. He likes to say that he's not one. He's just been doing these videos to document what's going on. He's another good guy, you should check him out. So anyway, let's get on with the actual main topic of this video, which is Chris Chan's gender/sex and the misgendering. I just don't understand why these people are so concerned about Chris Chan being misgendered. It makes no sense. At least, it doesn't make sense in the traditional sense in which we mean by the word not making sense. We have a person who has allegedly committed a crime and is going to go on trial next month, and yet the one thing that really irks them out of all the things that we could talk about is what pronouns we should use to refer to this person. The only way it could make sense is if you actually look at the background behind a lot of these people. Most of them are left-wing and or transgender, but the latter is not necessary for them to also complain about this, as you shall see. I suppose they have a vested interest in protecting their own kind or protecting trans people. Why? I don't understand. Would you protect a person who has allegedly committed a crime? Surely you should be denouncing them flat out, as opposed to defending them on one thing which really should be dropped. This is not the hill you want to die on, but they want to anyway because they're so obsessed with protecting trans people and making sure they are respected. Because this is what it boils down to. It's all about respect. They want us to respect trans people. They want us to respect Chris Chan as an extension of that. Because you'll have heard this for many years, that to use a transgender person's proper pronouns is a mark of respect. I generally am respectful of trans people, and especially the ones that I'm friends with, I will use the pronouns that they want me to use. I don't mind that. It's okay. You know, I can live with it. Whatever. I might have some reservations, but at the end of the day, they're adults. They can be whoever they want to be, and who cares? However, I do have an issue with it when the person is so obviously not trans and they're what we call a trans trender, or somebody who is just doing it for attention. Chris Chan is not trans. He only decided to dress up as a woman in order to attract lesbians because he failed to get straight women. That's the only reason why he decided to come out of the closet, so to speak, and call himself trans and Christine. He isn't, and he knows he isn't. And yet these people continue to lecture us, regardless of these facts, whether they know them or not. And I will give you some examples, because these people need to be called out. I don't care what pronouns that these people use. If it is a mark of respect, if we should use these pronouns to respect these people, then why should I use these pronouns for Chris? He deserves none of my respect. He never has deserved respect for as long as I remember being aware of him. Therefore, I should not use his pronouns. It's about respect, right? Well, if he doesn't deserve respect, then I won't use them. And there are plenty of trans people who don't like Chris and say that he isn't one. And to be honest, this is something that the so-called community, because it's not really a community, need to actually address. What actually makes somebody trans? But that's a whole other video. But that is something that these people need to address and talk about, because for our own sanity, we need to know. And before I get into the actual comments, I would just like to shout out Kiwi Farms for making a thread detailing and documenting all these idiots who have been trying to lecture us on Chris Chan's pronouns. Link in the description down below if anybody wants to read it and have a laugh. So anyway, on with the first example. This is Ben Saint. He's been doing a lot of content on Chris Chan recently. He's a leftist. As always, criticism of Quick in the comments is fine. Transphobia is not. But it's not transphobia to call somebody a he who's actually a he and is only doing it for attention, Ben. And you know, because you've done a lot of content on Chris recently, that he must be doing it for attention, for lesbians, or God knows what else crazy shenanigans he wants to do. So why are you lecturing us on transphobia? I addressed this very issue in the lecture. Just because Chris is wrong about something, we shouldn't allow ourselves to make the same errors she does. We should strive to do better. I mean, it's not hard to not have sex with your mum. I'm just saying, Ben. And I don't see how transphobia and other prejudices like that are in any way on the same level as incest and rape. I'm sorry, but I just don't see it. One user, Bagel2, calls out Ben for deleting comments that disagree with him, and Ben says, as I said, transphobia is not acceptable in the comments. Of course, it's pretty clear that his version of transphobia is different to what the layman uses, considering he's on the left. Then, on his Twitter, he announced this probably a lot earlier than the video, and he says, gonna get hate for this, but even if Quick is a psycho and a sex criminal, she's still a she. Doesn't make a difference on that front. Well, it does, actually. Chris is not a she. Chris is a man in drag. This is something that he has attested to on many occasions, and you know this. He then continues that most other authorities on Chris Chan disagree on this point is frankly embarrassing. Even more embarrassing than being a Christorian in the first place, if you can believe that. Well, why do you choose to make videos on him and talk about him on Twitter then? You're obviously interested yourself. Blair TV and a few others say this. Why is it universally accepted as okay to misgender Chris Chan? That is my main question. Ash contradicts herself, or himself, and says, remember, y'all, let's not purposefully misgender shitty people. Chris Chan doesn't deserve respect, but purposeful misgendering isn't just disrespectful to the person you're doing it to. I'm sorry, socialist, but I treat individuals as individuals, not as part of a collective. So when I misgender one person, whether it be on purpose or by accident, that's not going to harm everybody else. That is not going to show that I dislike literally every single person in that group. It might just be I like this one person, but I've not gotten used to calling them a she or a he. Or maybe I do dislike this other person and I do it on purpose to wind them up. Or I don't believe they're actually trans. That doesn't mean that I don't think all trans people are not trans, that gender dysphoria is some conspiracy theory. No. That's not true. And I don't see how being disrespectful to Chris, who isn't even trans, but you think he is somehow disrespectful to you and to all the other people there. How am I being disrespectful to Rose of Dawn or my friend Claire or any of the other people or the trans people who follow me on Twitter and YouTube? How are they being disrespected by me? They also call Chris a he. So are they disrespecting themselves and you? No, they're not. Ankso Gibberish says, okay, Chris Chan literally sucks. That isn't an excuse to misgender her. Cis people just jump at the first chance they get to be transphobic, and it shows. And you guys seem to jump at the first opportunity to defend degeneracy, but hey, you know, what do I know? Dave Apple at DGS. When people remind others that Chris Chan goes by she, her, and they go, that's not the issue here, like, you still have to use trans people's correct pronouns, even when they do something vile and fucked up, because your respect for trans people can't depend on whether you like them or not. But I thought the whole point of respect is about love and hate and earning it and things like that. And I'm sorry, but I don't take orders from random accounts on Twitter. Lily says, Chris Chan is already a deeply effed up person who has been in desperate need of serious help for years. Even though she's a terrible person, that doesn't give all the weirdos online permission to be transphobic. It's only transphobic if people choose to assign the behaviour of Chris Chan onto everybody else. Much like how a lot of the trans people in this video I've been responding to have been assigning a lot of behaviour towards cisgender people. And now for the spicy bit, guys. I'm sorry, but Lilith Lovett needs to be called out. This woman is nowhere near as based as you think she is. Lilith says, intentionally misgendering someone because they've done bad is kind of like calling a black person the N-word for doing a bad thing. For example, I don't have a single ounce of respect for the likes of Quick or Jessica Yaniv, but I'd be uncomfortable with using he, him on them. Oh my god, where do I even start with this? This is just awful. First off, Yaniv is not trans. He is a predator who goes after women by dressing up in drag. And secondly, it's not the same as calling somebody the N-word. And even then, according to Chris Rock, a white person can use that word if the black person wrongs them in a really bad way. Yes, it was a bit in his routine, but the point of that was, can white people use the N-word? And the answer was, yeah, kinda. If I were to call somebody that word, even though I don't really use it anyway, because they did something wrong to me, something really, truly bad, would you then lecture me on calling them that word? Say if they killed a member of my family and I used that term on them, if I caught them or whatever, or if I knew it was them, just to them, you would literally lecture me on that as opposed to calling out this person. That's how warped your morals are. You would rather defend all trans people because for some reason you have this weird collectivist mindset, even though you're meant to be a libertarian, that all trans people must be defended no matter what bad they do. This is what the left do. This is what they do with black criminals. It doesn't matter how many black criminals commit how much crime, they must be protected because they're black. And if they're being arrested or killed by the police or citizens, then that's bad. You are literally an SJW, you're no better than them, and to be honest, I don't understand why you have a following, and I don't understand how people can respect you when you don't deserve respect, Lilith. You don't. And then she tries to use a meme that is mocking her to mock us. That's not how that works, Lilith. I'm sorry. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, my boy Mutaha, some ordinary gamers, had to just do the exact same thing. I've gotten like 100 emails about not misgendering Christian. I won't. I believe in basic respect. That said, refocus on the real crime of elderly abuse in the worst way possible, FFS. That also said, I'm finding it real hard to give even the basic respect to someone who has a very good chance of raping their elderly dementia-ridden mother. So while it's not as bad as you may think, still, in his most recent video, he did kind of rant about it and say that, yeah, we should respect his pronouns even though Christian is not trans. Again, why? Why should we? If it's about respect and this person has lost our respect, why should we respect the pronoun? In fact, why are the pronouns even relevant in the first place? They're not. This is just almost a distraction. Like all these other people who just rely on like the trans rights gravy train are doing this for their own attention almost. It's not really about Chris, it's about them. They've been making it about themselves more than Chris. They must feel harmed by this. They must feel threatened because they're so collectivist that they group up in ranks and defend this horrible person because they feel that if this person does something bad, it will reflect on all of them. When really only a small minority of equally collectivist idiots, actual transphobes like trans exclusionary radical feminists or just idiots online, they themselves would do that. But the rest of us, like me, we're not going to judge everybody by the actions of Chris who isn't even trans anyway. They have literally nothing to fear. But again, because they're so warped by the politics in that crazy so-called community, you know, the whole trans rights thing, that they just do this, and it's stupid. With Muta, there's just no excuse. Canada, is there something in the water down there, in the snow or in your maple syrup? Do Brits, after we sorted our own shit out, have to go over there and recolonise you to teach you how to run your own country again? Like, seriously. Blueberry Drano says, some people misgender Christian and their reasoning is just wacky. Sometimes it feels like they can't compute that a shitty person can also happen to be trans. Yes, a person can actually be trans and a sex offender. No, they are most likely not faking it. Strangely enough, which should be fortunate for you, he is faking it. So why are you defending him? Why are you duped by this? But again, we know why. Why am I posing these rhetorical questions? Some people in the chat will already be saying it's because of this, that, and the other. Yes, I know. It's because of the pathological need, because of leftism, because of identity politics, to always affirm what somebody says they are, when really we shouldn't. And also the grey area and blurred lines between what is and what isn't trans. And finally we get to our last person. It's nobody special. I had a lot of stuff and I felt like I had to keep this video short, so I'll just end it with this person and then we'll conclude. The fact she raped her mom is definitely the important topic at hand, but people should still be using the right pronouns for her regardless of how deplorable her actions are. If the alleged rape and elderly abuse is the most important part of this, why do you bring up the pronouns anyway? Because in your mind, that isn't the most important. The pronouns are equally important, otherwise you wouldn't have put that but, would you? To conclude, Lilith Lovett is a leftist idiot who should be disowned by everybody. And the people who bring up the pronoun issue clearly have weird narcissistic collectivist disorder. Yeah, not just individual disorder, narcissistic collectivist disorder, because it's pretty clear that they're doing it for their own reasons, for their own group's agenda, and they're doing it to protect themselves, to get attention for themselves. It has to be. It feels like an attention-seeking move on a lot of these trans activists and idiots like Lilith Lovett's part. You do also have people like Ben Sane and Muta who should know better, and yet they're still lecturing us because they want to look good. They want to virtue signal. I think at this point, after this video, I'm going to just ignore the whole misgendering thing. Let them let them moan, let them whine, because the important thing is Barbara. The most important thing is the crime at hand. Misgendering is just a distraction, a ploy for these people to get your attention. I only did this to mock them. Maybe it's feeding them a little bit. But after this, I won't feed them anymore. Much like what Chris Chan shouldn't have done. But you know what? Let's end it there, guys. The conclusion is over. So, this is the last video, unless something happens on Chris Chan that I might ever make. Never say never. So until next time, I'll see you all later.